Hello, and welcome to our presentation for Block and Tackle, a puzzle platformer set on the high seas of adventure. In this game, the player will take control of two unique characters and use them in combination to solve various puzzles and defeat their foes. The game is being developed by our team of 6. I'm Chris George, the producer of the team, and I'll also be working on our documentation. Joining me is Lyndsay Beaver, our mechanics designer, who will also be working in Kismet and level design. James Hale, who is handling our scripting as well as contributing to story writing. Gerald Skelton, who will be in charge of world building and level design while assisting with story writing. Howard Waldrop, who is working in both scripting and documentation. And Andy Young, who is in charge of our artwork and will also be helping with mechanics design. And now, here are my teammates to tell you a little more about the game.
In Block and Tackle, our game will be centering on two protagonists. Block, a lumbering oaf with a soft side that only his best friend has ever really taken the time to see, and said best friend, Tackle, a short-statured, larger-than-life con man that is always looking for a new way to get someone else's treasure, or grog, through a series of schemes that usually end up backfiring. Our game will start in a tavern cellar where Block and Tackle are scheming to get a little bit of free grog, and then the game will continue with Block and Tackle being confronted by the angry patrons, which eventually leads them on a fun and strange little adventure that pits them against other pirates and a variety of island-dwelling creatures as they continue in their little travels, ever searching for free grog and shiny treasure, like all pirates. For Block and Tackle, we really wanted to go for a whimsical, cartoony, comical kind of game. Something that would really open up a large audience. An audience that has a pretty broad base with, children, families, even college students and the average gamer, something that anybody would really find fun to play and pick up and get into pretty easily. And now on to Lyndsay, who's going to explain the mechanics that we have decided to use in our game. Thank you.
Because the game is falling into the platformer genre, it's going to follow a lot of the standard mechanics that a platformer would use. Movement left and right, jumping, activating some levers and triggers are going to be standard, but the core mechanic that it relies on is the swapping of player control. The player is going to come across some obstacles in the level and is going to need to be cognizant of how to solve those by switching the control from one player to the other, specifically from tackle to block or block back to tackle. This is shown in some of the gameplay videos that we've got, but also in some of our storyboards. Each of the characters also has a special ability that they can do, which is going to be useful for navigating a level. Block can what's called hunker down, which allows him to kind of drop down in place and become a solid object. This will allow Tackle to actually jump onto him and access higher locations, but also allow Block to block incoming objects, specifically enemy attacks. Tackle can use something called takedown, which will allow him to actually knock out opponents and enemies, specifically kind of charging into them and taking them out of the way. That's going to be how a player is going to navigate levels that have enemies.
And Block and Tackle are designed to use both characters. For example, with a seesaw, you'd have one character stand on the seesaw on one side of it so that the other character can be lifted to a higher area. In the example of pressure plates, you'd have one character stand on the pressure plate to open up a doorway or something else, so that the other character, for example, if Block is standing on it, you could have Tackle go through the doorway, toggle a switch that will lock the doorway open, then Block can also pass through that same doorway. When we're talking about levers, we use levers and toggles throughout the level, and these are mainly used to either lock doors in place, or we do have some puzzles that we've thought of that you have to trigger levers in a certain order in order to unlock a door or a series of doors. We do want to combine some of these as well as using some moving platforms. So if you have one character who needs to get to a certain spot, you can have Block, for example, use a ship's wheel to move back and forth the horizontal platform to move Tackle to one area where Tackle can hit a toggle to drop, for example, a ramp so that Block can traverse and get up higher. We do plan on using multiple levels when we do these, as in heights, so you can have like a 3-layer or 3-level level itself, where you can have one character on like the second platform and one character on the bottom platform, each of them using different levers in order to both work on one large puzzle.
This brings us to the enemy section of our presentation. First, we have the Tavern Patron. Tavern Patrons are stationary enemies that rest at a single point in the level. They throw glass mugs in an over-arc motion toward the main characters, Block and Tackle. If Tackle is hit by the mug, he is killed. If Block is hit by the mug, he takes 1 hit point of damage unless he's using his ability Hunkered Down, in which point he takes no damage at all. That brings us to the enemy Pirate. The enemy Pirate uses a cannon and shoots cannonballs at our 2 heroes. If Tackle is hit by the cannonball, he is killed. Block, on the other hand, just like the Patron, if Block takes a hit, he takes 1 hit point of damage. If he's using Hunker Down, he takes no damage at all. That brings us to the third enemy, the Crab. Crabs move in a horizontal fashion on the level. They follow set paths. If Tackle is hit by one of the crabs, it kills him. Just like before, Block takes only 1 hit point of damage if he's hit by a crab, unless he's using his Hunker Down ability, at which point it dazes the crab, preventing it from moving for a short period of time. Last, we have the Monkey. The Monkey sits up atop of palm trees, throwing coconuts toward the ground. As with the previous enemies, Tackle is killed with 1 hit, where Block takes only 1 hit point of damage, unless he's using Hunker Down, at which point the coconut just bounces off of him.
Risks are a natural part of making any project a reality, and making a game over the next 3 months will undoubtedly not be without some risk. Some of the risks we will be facing as we head into the final project include finding the appropriate scope for our project and working within those limitations. If we can find an appropriate balance between scope and risk, our project will undoubtedly be successful. If our scope is out of proportion, we will find ourselves struggling to accomplish what we set out to do and increase the risk we are taking on exponentially. Ensuring we have code that is working as we want to ensure we are delivering the polished experience we are trying to deliver. We have previously run into coding errors that have since been resolved. If we run into errors with coding again, we will run the risk of making a broken game or not being able to make the game at all. And lastly, being able to get the art assets we desire to give our game the overall look we want. The aesthetics of our game are nearly as important as the mechanics. If everything works but the visuals don't match what's going on in the game won't be as we envision and could run the risk of confusing the player. If we can work past or around these risks, we will undoubtedly be able to deliver the game we are envisioning in a game we can be proud of.
Thank you for watching our presentation. We hope you look forward to playing as much as we look forward to finishing our final project and creating the best game we can. Thanks again.